expect things to be tight, expect things to be frustrating for a little while longer, whilst the economy is on its knees, whilst we're still trying to get through the legacy impact of inflation, and with the fact that these guys are not willing to jeopardise the sustainability of the club, and nor are the Premier League or UEFA rules going to continue to allow that kind of behaviour, then I think you have to expect like a meeting in the middle. And Tottenham are well placed, well positioned, but we can't necessarily just go after everything all at once, all at the same time. Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I'm Sean. Bugsy is just here. It's Friday. It's the 2023 version of September. No, it's not. It's February the 10th. I think this is episode 155 of Tottenham Walks. The financials are out. In some part they're out. Anyway, it's not really the detailed results. It's the summary results alongside a chairman's statement from Daniel Levy. It's really cold. I've misjudged the weather. My hands are freezing. And I'm going to try my best to get through the details. As I say, guys, this isn't the 25-page results where you can comb through with a fine tooth comb. This is just summary costs, summary profits, and we'll look at that, and then we'll look at the statement today. It's typical because it's a very busy day for me today, and usually I'd like to be able to spend more time going through this in detail, but it is what it is. Guys, here's the net, okay? When you got financial results, it doesn't really matter what the numbers are, especially when it comes to stock markets and how the prices of shares react to results. Not that we care about that stuff here, but generally speaking, it's not about what the numbers are, it's what the numbers are relative to the expectations. And on this one, in a nutshell, both the revenue number and the profitability number, the operating profit at least, is bang on the money, both the top and the bottom line. They predicted that they would have estimated revenues of 443 million, and they got 444 million. So an insignificant slight beat. In terms of overall profit from operations, they predicted 113 and they got 112.3, so a relatively insignificant slight miss, about 0.5%, not even that. Where it's funny to me, or not funny, interesting, is in the breakdown of where the revenues are coming from. So you've got match receipts, UEFA prize money, TV and media money, and commercial revenues. And the estimated for each of these is different by a not insignificant amount to what they actually thought they were going to happen. So commercials, for sponsorships, that sort of stuff, they expected 180 million to come in that format. They actually got 183.5, so they got 3.5 million more in commercial revenue than they thought they were going to. TV and media money, they thought they were going to get 140. They actually got 144.2. So that's an extra 4.2 million from TV and media, or about 2.5%, which isn't insignificant. Then you've got UEFA prize money. They predicted they were going to make 8 million. They actually ended up getting 10.2. So again, that's 20% higher. It's a relatively small number. Obviously, we were playing in a lesser league, the Conference League. So insignificant amount of money, but they still got it wrong by 20%. But here's the kicker for me: match receipts, match day revenues, which includes ticket prices, beer sales, all that sort of stuff, any of the hospitality revenue generation. They thought they were going to have 115 million, but they missed it wildly. They only got 106.1. And so whilst they predicted the same revenue and the overall operating profit, how they found it, how they got there, they were pretty inaccurate. Quite a big swing, especially in the match day receipts. Now, why is that? Well, look, the argument to say that by putting prices up to £90 for certain tickets for games this season, or putting the price of beer up, putting the price of the pies and mash and all that stuff up. The argument that has been made in Daniel Levy's statement essentially is that the operating costs of running the business have gone up significantly ever since COVID and the aftermath of COVID, the supply chain issues, the cost of energy, all of those things are pushing prices up, and therefore they have to naturally push the prices up of their products or of their services so that they don't get squeezed. Well, that only works and rings true if putting the prices up doesn't reduce the amount of people that want to participate at that price. It's called price elasticity of demand. For anyone that studied economics, that was the sort of thing you learn in your first couple of weeks. That at some point, when you push your prices up too high, the amount of money you can make from them starts to decline because less people want to pay that money for the same thing. And I feel like that's probably what's happened in last year's numbers, because they wildly missed expectations on those match day receipts. And bear in mind that when you're talking about revenue, that doesn't factor in costs. So of course, if the costs have gone up 30%, then if that makes it inefficient to keep the prices the same because you end up losing money, then of course you have to nudge the prices up accordingly. What we won't see until we get to the nitty-gritty of the results, which haven't been released as far as I can see, where you can look into the individual margins of any individual item, is what their operating margins are. What I can tell you as an overall though, is that the total revenue being 443 and their total profit from operations being 113 million, which again was bang on where they wanted it to be, suggests that they've got an operating margin, a net margin of about 25%. Where they then take it is, of course, after they've got that factor, they then bake in depreciation on the player amortization, on the stadium, all of those things, and you then get to an overall loss for the period of 50.1 million. So they're factoring in £160 million, give or take, of rolled over costs, depreciation, amortization, and after tax as well, which looks like it's a terrible year, but of course that's just the way that they have to write things down, write down the value of players, to write down the player trading initiatives as well. And look, I'm not really sure where we can go with the numbers until I get the chance to look through the costs and with fine detail. To me, it looks like it's bang in line. They just missed on certain predicted revenues, both to the good and to the bad on certain areas. But I think where the interesting stuff is when you get to the chairman's statement. And I'll go through a few bits and pieces here. So in terms of competitive challenges, he says, since opening the stadium in April 2019, we have invested over 500 million in our men's first team squad, putting us in the top 5 of spending in the Premier League, with a further 47 million commitment in the January window as we continue to support the team in the world's most competitive league. So again, what they're doing there though is talking about expenses that are not factored into this particular set of accounts, because this is rear view looking for the previous 12 months, and they're kind of factoring in things that will be on next year's statements that will come out in 12 months time. However, the reason why they're doing it is because of the pressure that they were put under from the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust and areas of the fan base to explain what's going on with the vision, with the spend, etc. And I think there's lots of this statement that still repeats some of the things that they said in that particular Q&A session last week or 2 weeks ago. This is our spend levels show we have invested in the team. However, we walk a fine line between long-term investment and short-termism. That's one of the things they said before. This is why our recruitment must be first class, as mistakes at this level have a financial and sporting impact for future seasons. We have felt and continue to feel the financial impact of supporting player purchases which have not worked out as planned. See, that sentence, that last sentence, I don't believe was on, from memory, I might be wrong, but that last sentence I don't think was on the Q&A session. The previous one was about first-class mistakes and the impact that they have on future seasons. He says, we have taken steps to improve this area of operations and we believe the recent transfer window reflects this. Well, you know, that depends on how you feel about the window. Some people think it was decent enough. Other people think, absent a centre-back, it was nowhere near good enough. The landscape of the Premier League has changed significantly in the last decade. It is understandable that some fans call for more spending, much of which is unsustainable for many clubs. This is important. We are competing in a league in which we have seen increased sovereign wealth ownership and consortia finance, and in a league where the spending power is now vested in the hands of a few who dominate and have the ability to distort the market. Something I've been talking about a long time on this channel. We welcome the changes to the governance of the game, which will compel greater financial sustainability and financial fair play. Major changes have been introduced in Europe around FFP regulations, including the newly launched UEFA financial sustainability rules, the full impact of which will be felt from season 25-26. They are based on 3 pillars: solvency, stability and cost control, and clubs will have 3 seasons to adjust to them. Many expect that these new rules will be a game changer for the sport. Even tighter regulations may follow. Now look, this is something I was talking about over the last couple of days on the channel with regards to Manchester City, with regards, you know, how I think Chelsea are behaving and why they can behave in that way now based on what they were getting away with, you know, in the past. On top of that, you know, I was on We Are Tottenham TV yesterday with Ben and Sim. It was a nice time, good show. And we were talking about whether or not Daniel Levy and ENIC should get a bit more of a reprieve from some areas of the fan base, given the, you know, accusations of cheating. And look, whatever your stance is on that, I don't mind. But one of the things we spoke about at the end of that show is something similar to now what Daniel Levy's talking about, which is, you know, the fact that these sustainability rules are coming in and there's tighter controls going to be going forward. I think it does bode well for Tottenham. I think it does bode well for the future. In the next 2 or 3 seasons, all of these teams are going to have to adapt and adjust. And Tottenham won't. Tottenham will always be able to kind of still continue on our systems because we've been doing it the right way, and the game is moving towards us rather than further away, in spite of the fact that all this sovereign wealth money is coming in. So I think it's kind of it's good to see Daniel Levy on the same page on that particular point. 1 second. He then goes on to talk about future growth. He says stricter control of the cost base, increased commercial and sponsorship revenues, and consistent European qualification are key to our ability to continue first team investment and stay competitive. Looking ahead, current world events, and lest we forget the impact of Brexit, have led to rising costs in our supply chains, energy prices tripling, increased business rates and disruption to deliveries, all of which will collectively impact our club. We shall look to manage our operations to minimise this where possible. And I think this same narrative that has been, you know, continually pushed, I think we have to get on board it. I mean, you don't have to get on board it. You can continue to push for a change of ownership if that's what you want. But, you know, absent that happening, I think you need to expect Tottenham to smash out more and more concerts as often as possible. You know, almost encourage them, guys, because we are dealing with strange times. With, like he says, the cost of doing business is going up. We've seen from match day receipt numbers, expected versus actuality, that he missed by 10%. So pushing those numbers up to a point where he can still remain profitable on those actions. There's a point, and he must have gone through it at some point there, where the prices that he's risen by impact the actual ability to generate those revenues. And so he's going to have to net lose money, which is why he's talking about so he's going to have to, if the cost is going up by say 25%, and he's realizing that by putting the prices up 25%, you actually end up losing more customers coming in and spending the money, then the net of that is that he's going to be worse off for every product or every item that he sells. The margins get squeezed. And so when he's talking about the strict control of the cost base. Expect things to be tight. Expect things to be frustrating for a little while longer, whilst the economy is on its knees, whilst we're still trying to get through the legacy impact of inflation, and with the fact that these guys are not willing to jeopardise the sustainability of the club, and nor are the Premier League or UEFA rules going to continue to allow that kind of behaviour, then I think you have to expect like a meeting in the middle. And Tottenham are well placed, well positioned, but we can't necessarily just go after everything all at once, all at the same time. That's the way it reads to me. I'm going to go through this in more detail. If there's anything else, that's the general takeaway, guys. But look, as expected in the bottom and the top and bottom line, unexpected in the way it shook out. And again, as you were from Daniel Levy, he's talking about the risks. He's a risk-averse guy, and he's not going to jeopardise our future by exposing us to, the sorts of risks that other chairmen seem to be willing to expose their clubs to. For me, it's frustrating, but I understand it. Do you? Let me know. Let me know your thoughts. Are you okay with it? Are you happy? Are you sad? Has any of this stuff changed your mind on Daniel Levy in any way, shape or form? Like, share and subscribe, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy. Bye-bye.